Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the DC Capstone Report. Today's DC Capstone Report will be just a little different since we have a bye week coming up this week. In the first segment, we're going to take a look and review the Tennessee game that Alabama played last week. In our second segment, we will name our standouts on both offense and defense from the Tennessee game. And then our third and final segment, we're going to take a look at some of the things that Alabama can work on during the bye week as they prepare for their big game in 2 weeks against LSU. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on Tide 102.9, The Morning Blitz with Martin Houston. You can listen live at Tide1029.com. Well, Lance, it was another great outing by the Alabama Crimson Tide. I keep saying this to our listeners out there every week on the podcast of how good they're doing. And I just think this is one of those teams that is probably one of the best Alabama football teams that I've ever been around and seen. As far as running the ball and passing the ball, you kind of run out of superlatives to talk about and adjectives to describe how great that everything is and how they're doing. But, Tua Tagovailoa leading this team on offense is just amazing at the skill positions and the athletic players that we have all around. And the defense has come along and played really well, and the Tennessee game was no different. But just to launch in, I think the Alabama game plan for this was to start fast as it has been in every game. Again, in this game, like in every game we played, we scored a touchdown on the first drive. Now, the interesting thing in this game was that Josh Jacobs got the start for the first time. Now, prior to this, Damian Harris had started all 7 games. We learned after the game, that we didn't know this during the game, we learned after the game that due to some internal reasons, Damian Harris didn't get the start. Now, Coach Saban didn't elaborate on what that was. I'm not sure. I won't speculate, but I do know Damian Harris is a great player, and he did play in the game and scored a touchdown in the game, just didn't have as many carries. I know that there's a great competition at running back. We have probably 4 of the best running backs in the nation on one team, and it's hard to get enough carries. But I won't speculate as to why. But anyway, Josh Jacobs comes in and does a great job in the run game. I thought his running the ball with so much his quickness and his strength several times did well. He got the game started on a long kickoff return, which if it wasn't for the kicker, he would have probably scored on that play. But Josh Jacobs played an outstanding game, got a start in the running game, did very well. Tua again did 2 things. I don't know how to describe him anymore on his play offensively, but he made some throws in this game that I've maybe seen one other quarterback in my lifetime make those throws, and that's Brett Favre. And I know I've compared Tua to Brett Favre in the past, but he made a throw for the touchdown, first touchdown to Jerry Jeudy. And the reason he could make that throw is our offensive line play was so good in this game. It gave him at least 7 or 8 seconds to throw that ball. But everybody was covered. Jeudy broke off his route. Tua waved at him like he was playing in a pickup game out on the quad, where to go, and then throws a dime that you couldn't have gotten squeezed in between him and the sidelines by any other quarterback that I know of, other than maybe Brett Favre. But it was a great play, and it's just shows you of how good Tua has gotten. I did notice he threw a couple of high balls in this game. Some of our listeners out there, Lance, may have thought he was off because of his knee, but I don't think that was the case at all. The wind, it was hard to tell on the television, but the wind was blowing so hard, and there was a big crosswind there that you could see it in the kickoffs how the ball just got deflated. The same thing happened on pass plays as well, and it took him a while to adjust to that to make sure that he didn't have the high throws. But he goes in this game. He still doesn't get to have to play in the fourth quarter. He has 4 touchdown passes, no interceptions. On the year, he's got over 25 touchdown passes and no interceptions. So Tua did a great job on our offense. Our offensive line in this game was superb. The blocking the run blocking was really good. Josh Jacobs gained a good number of yards. Brian Robinson had a good number of yards. Najee Harris ran well and did some great things. And Damian Harris scored a touchdown and did good running the ball as well. So I give credit to our offensive line and our tight ends blocking in this game. I thought overall our offense played another superb game. I think it'll be different maybe when we get tested by a better defense. Tennessee, as Jeremy Pruitt who has always been a man who tells the truth and tells it like it is, at halftime just indicated to his own Vol network that his team wasn't in the class of Alabama athletically, and that's kind of what we talked about leading in this game. That Alabama was just a much better athletic team, and that recruiting wise, Alabama was high above Tennessee. Now I hate to knock Tennessee too much. I think Jimmy Pruitt's doing a great job. I think he'll have an opportunity to build this team next year with some recruits that'll help him play in his scheme and buy into his process. But overall, Alabama just head above them at this point. But Alabama's head above everyone in the SEC, I think, at this point, talent-wise, except maybe Georgia and LSU, and those are games that'll come down the road. But overall, the offense played really good. And jumping over to the defensive side of the ball, I thought we had a really good scheme. Tennessee had ran the ball pretty effectively against Auburn, and Garantano had done some things with the 50-50 balls. But in this game, the defense did really well, held them to no points. We'd already had 28 points before they first scored their first touchdown, so it was 28-0. At that point, they were down by 4 touchdowns before they scored their first touchdown, and that was on a play by their backup quarterback who came in after Garantano got hurt. But Garantano got drilled on a sack by Xavier McKinney and dropped the ball and put us in great position on our second series to score in that way by Josh Jacobs' touchdown. But the defense set up that touchdown. So very quickly in the first quarter, we were already up by 2 scores, and the defense then played well going from that point. They did give up some 50-50 balls, but at that point we were already 4 touchdowns ahead. So I'm looking forward to seeing this defense play in a game where it's a close game and see if they can hold their own against the other defenses in the SEC like LSU and Georgia. So I really believe down the road we'll get an opportunity, and we'll talk about that next week in our preview of the LSU game. I think we have an opportunity to play a closer game and see how our defense performed. But overall, they did really well. On defense, a couple of issues that I wanted to discuss was that Raekwon Davis didn't start this game. For internal reasons, he was held out by Coach Saban in the first half. Now, he didn't get suspended by the SEC, nor was he kicked out of the game last week when he threw some punches against Missouri. But Coach Saban disciplined him internally, and it has to be from that actions on his field in Missouri. But he didn't play the first half of this game. But LeBron Ray came in, and I thought LeBron Ray and Fadarian Mathis did a good job of filling in for Raekwon Davis in the first half to help that run stop him. But overall, the defense, Quinion Williams was in the backfield, I would say 90% of the time he beat his man. I would be surprised if he didn't grade out above 90% in this game. Again, just had a solid game. Mac Wilson had a solid game calling the defense, did a really good job. I think his making the calls and adjustments, he did really well. And this game, again, put him and Dylan Moses in positions to make tackles. So relatively hold their run game to very little yardage. At one point in the first half, they were, I think, minus 22 yards rushing based on the loss, tackles for loss in the backfield by the running backs and the tackles for loss by the quarterback. So it wasn't until late in the game when they began to gain some yards rushing. But overall, I think our defense played well. Our defensive backs kind of hung in there with the tall receivers. Jawan Jennings, I have to give him credit for Tennessee. He went up and caught a couple of balls that were just hard to believe that he could make those catches. But, I think overall, though, I was pleased with our defensive back play and the play of our total defense in this game. So if you just review, Alabama wins the game 58-21, give up 21 points, but it's late after the game was well decided. We were up by 4 touchdowns before Tennessee ever scored. And I just think this is probably one of the best games we played on the road against a rival. And, of course, everybody has seen the photos, but after the game, Alabama was all lit up the cigars and smoking and having a great time, that tradition of lighting up the cigars after a game on the 3rd Saturday of October. So just a summary, Alabama played a good game, did really well, started fast, kept ahead, and really outdid Tennessee in this rivalry game. So Butch Jones, he enjoyed his first cigar after an Alabama-Tennessee game, and some of the players doused him with the Gatorade. It's good for me to see him after his dismal performances at Tennessee against Alabama and come over to the Alabama side as an offensive analyst this year. I guess it just had to feel sweet for him to go back into Tennessee and be on the winning side finally. And as our players pointed out, finally get to smoke a victory cigar after the Tennessee-Alabama game. But overall, I thought Alabama played well, and I believe they're in much need of a break coming up with a bye week. And I think as we'll discuss in our final segment, I believe the bye week can be used by Alabama to their advantage. So overall, a good game. Alabama versus Tennessee lived up to its rivalry. Alabama blows them out again, 58-21.
You have been listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is brought to you each time this week by RollTideBama.com and FreelancePitchers.com.
Well, in our second segment, Lance, I want to concentrate on our standout players of the game, both on offense and defense. And coming out of this Tennessee game, there's just a couple of players that I keep mentioning every week as our standout players, but they keep doing standout things. And first of all, Tua Tagovailoa, you really just cannot have a standout player on offense in this game without him being one of them. You know, he throws 4 touchdown passes. He has no interceptions. His completion rate is above 70% in this game. Even in the strong wind, made some adjustments, did some things that only I think he could do. So he's definitely our standout, one of our standouts on offense. He's yet to play a full game, has not been needed to play in the fourth quarter. In this game, played just the very first series of the second half, and then was pulled after throwing a touchdown pass to Henry Ruggs. So I think in this game he did everything he was able to want him to do. I think his knee was better than the last game. He actually ran. Maybe felt a little twinge in the knee right before he came out of the game, but overall, just think he did really good and great offensive player, and he's one of our standouts for this week. The other standout I picked this week is on the offense is Irv Smith. You know, Irv Smith had a couple of wonderful catches in this game and one for a touchdown. Irv Smith has caught more touchdown passes this year so far through 8 games than O.J. Howard, our other prolific tight end that everybody thinks is so good, and to his credit was great in those 2 years that he played in those games against Clemson especially. But he's caught more touchdown passes in this 1 year through 8 games than O.J. Howard caught in the 2 years that he played here in those games and did so well against Clemson. But I say that because I believe Alabama is targeting the tight end more. And Irv Smith Jr. is really given to a great target to throw to. He gets open well and he catches the ball well. He had a drop, I think, in this game. That's the only knock on Smith, but he's one of our standouts, not only because of his catching, but because of his blocking. Several times the offensive running backs opened up in the big holes because Irv Smith had really handled the Tennessee outside linebacker. So I really believe that he not only is a well-rounded tight end, he's not only a great pass catcher and catching touchdowns, but he's also a great blocker, and that gets him to be one of our offensive standouts in this game. The other offensive standout in this game is a young man that, you know, if everybody remembers listening to some of our first podcasts earlier in the year before the season began, I told you to keep your eye on an offensive lineman named Deontay Brown up around North Alabama, out of Decatur. Deontay was pushing for playing time during the off season, during the fall camp, leading up to the first game, and there's always been competition there at that offensive guard position with he and Lester Cotton. Lester Cotton had tweaked his ankle. That kind of set him back a little bit, and Brown got to play a little more in the last game. And I think he's taken advantage of that. And during practice this week, Coach Saban said there was always a competition, and all he was looking for was performance. And obviously Deontay Brown showed him something during practice this week, and he gave him the start in this game. I think that giving Deontay Brown the start, I love Lester Cotton. He's a hometown young man right here from Tuscaloosa, and I love him. And I wish there was a place for all of them to play across the line of scrimmage. But in this game, Deontay Brown played with the aggressive nature that I've heard about in his practices. He was able to blow open some holes for the line of scrimmage there for the backs to run through. And I think our run game was better because of his play. Not only was his straight ahead blocking, but he was able to pull a lot. If you watch some of the clips, he was able to pull and lead our running backs through the holes. Now, he did give up a couple of quarterback pressures, and I believe his man is the one that hit Tua on the long touchdown pass that he threw to Henry Ruggs that kind of tweaked him a little bit. But, you know, to be honest, it was a long time in the pocket as well, waiting for that throw, and so I think Brown may have gotten the sack, but it was a long time to ask of him to keep his man out. So Deontay Brown, I'm happy for the young man who's competed well into the 8th game of the year and able to get his first start. So I think Lester Cotton and him give a good combo tandem for that offensive guard spot. Either one of them are good. Deontay Brown is really pressured Cotton, and by getting the start, he went out and played with a very much passion and aggressive nature, and made a good difference on the offensive line. So he is my other offensive player of the game. Flipping over to defense, defense played really well, and I said I had another defensive standout that was going to be almost every game, and that's Quinion Williams. In this game, I'm sure that Quinion Williams graded out over 90%. He beat his man almost every play in this game. He found himself in the backfield almost every play. He's unblockable. I know that's a big word to throw out there. Some folks say nobody's unblockable, but in my mind, if he's on every play and he's not tired and doesn't rest, he is hard to block, and he's in the backfield. He tackled the Tennessee running back for loss a couple of times, pressured the quarterback, always won his point line of scrimmage. So again, Quinion Williams is one of the defensive standouts. Another defensive standout we haven't talked much about this year is Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney is number 15. He comes off the edge, plays in the star money position a lot. He comes off the edge as that position that Minkah Fitzpatrick was able to come in and play so well last year and rush the quarterback. And that play where Guantano fumbles the ball and Christian Miller recovers, that didn't happen if Xavier McKinney didn't blitz on that play. Alabama showed blitz up the middle, backed out of it, and then came with a blindside blitz from Xavier McKinney. Quickness, just got straight into the backfield. The back didn't pick him up, and Guantano didn't know what hit him from the blind side. So that's what caused the fumble. In his play, Xavier McKinney has really improved and upped his game, and that's why he's one of our standouts this Tennessee game. Now, the other standout in defense, I picked another young man that early in the year I mentioned comes in from North Alabama. I told you to watch him on defensive line. I know we got Quinion Williams and Isaiah Buggs and Raekwon Davis. Hard to beat them out. But I told you to look for a young player named LeBron Ray. He has really done some great things in the fall, in practice, in the spring game, and others, and look for him to get some playing time. And because Raekwon Davis didn't get the start in this game, LeBron Ray got the start. And he did exceptional, rushing the quarterback off the edge, maintaining containment, tackling on the run. A lot of times he kept himself in good position, didn't lose containment on the outside. So LeBron Ray stepped up. He is one of our other defensive standouts of the game. So our offensive standouts of the game for Tennessee are Tua Tagovailoa, Irv Smith, and Deontay Brown. Our defensive standouts of the game are Xavier McKinney, LeBron Ray, and Quinion Williams. Well, Lance, in our final segment, we always take a look at the next game, and right now the next game on the schedule is a bye. And I think that the bye week comes at a great time for this Alabama team. This Alabama team has played 8 grueling games. It's an 8-game schedule from the very beginning against Louisville. They hadn't had an off day, and I know there's a lot of bumps and bruises. We see the ones that aren't getting to play, they're the injuries, but what we don't hear about are the bumps and the bruises that people play through. And believe me, there's a lot of players on this Alabama team that are nicked up that need some rest. So I think the first thing that Alabama does during the bye week to give us an advantage in the next game, and that is to take some rest. And I believe you'll see Coach Saban give some players some rest this week. Since they don't have a game on Saturday, they'll be rested up. I think you'll see them rehabbing. They'll be in the ice buckets. They'll be in the sauna. They'll be in the working out in the cryotherapy. They'll do all those things to get their body to recover. And I think that they'll do that, and it'll give us an advantage in the next game that we do play against LSU in 2 weeks. But the first thing that we'll do during this bye week is get healthy, get some people who are nicked up able to play at full strength. And I think it'll give Tua an opportunity to get his knee better and stronger, which you'll need when we go into that game against LSU. I think it gives a lot of our defensive players who've had to play a lot this year because of lack of backup depth opportunity to rest and be ready and refreshed for the game against LSU. The next thing I think is going to give us an advantage on, LSU has been playing some good ball this year. Probably they'll be the best defensive team that we'll face all year in 2 weeks. So we have 2 weeks to prepare for the LSU game, and I think that we'll be able to do that. Our scheming on offense will help us give them more time to kind of look at the film and study LSU and try to come up with an opportunity to take advantage of the weaknesses that they have either in the passing game or the running game. And then it also gives our defensive coaches and analysts the opportunity to study LSU. Plenty of film out there, what they've done this year. Be able to study them and to be able to go into this game with a defensive plan, try to stop the run. LSU runs a lot of the ball. If we can stop the run, force them to pass, and hopefully have a scheme to cover their passing as well. So that's the second thing we'll do is get ready for LSU. I think sometimes during this bye week, something that people don't think about is, you say you never look ahead. You're always looking ahead to the next game. But that'll be for next week, looking ahead to the LSU game. This week during the bye week, I think the third thing that most people don't talk about is there'll be an opportunity for us to look at down the schedule and put in some things for teams down the schedule. That's Mississippi State coming in on November the 10th to Bryant-Denny, and then the final game against Auburn. There's 2 teams, SEC games, that they'll be able to game plan, put some things in during this week, and then at the end of the week begin to concentrate on LSU and prepare for LSU. So I think the bye week comes at a great time to get healthy, to get better, to get refreshed, and also opportunity to give more intensive time study on LSU, and also if they want to take time to game plan for Mississippi State and Auburn. Well, that does it for the DC Capstone Report this week. Next week we'll be back. We won't have a game review, but we'll have a whole DC Capstone Report podcast next week on a preview of the upcoming game against LSU in Baton Rouge.
You have been listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is brought to you each time this week by RollTideBama.com and FreelancePitchers.com. Be sure to go online and check us out on DCCapstoneReport.com for future updates.